And here we go. Hey everyone, so I'm Lon Schiffbauer, for what it matters. And gosh, I don't even know where to start. And that's part of the problem. Let me show you something. This is my 1965 MG Midget, Mark II. And as you can see, it's an unholy mess. I bought this probably 15 years ago, something like that. I don't remember exactly when. And I proceeded to tear it apart. Now, I'm probably getting ahead of myself here a little bit. Let me explain something. I know absolutely nothing about cars. Absolutely nothing. Put you right back in here. And yet, for a variety of reasons that I'll... let's go ahead and turn this on and see what it does. For a whole variety of reasons that I'll go into later, I got it in my head to purchase this 1965 MG Midget and to restore it, rebuild it, recover it, whatever, right? But not knowing anything whatsoever about cars at all, and tearing it apart as I did, I basically freaked out and became terrified of the things. And so it is laid here, sat here on stilts, whatever, blocks, for the better part of a decade. Now, every once in a while I get into some sort of fit and I start working on it. So I'll work on it for a month or two and then nothing for 5 or 6 years. And then I'll work on it for a couple of weeks and then nothing for 5 or 6 years. And all the while, I find plenty of other projects to occupy me. You know, we're always improving the home. I have a whole bunch of bicycles up here because for a good long while I did Ironman triathlon. I earned a PhD. I transitioned careers. I did all kinds of things to basically justify not working on my baby here. Well, I kind of feel like it's time to fix this. And so now I'm going to turn this off to just see the difference there. All right. I'm going to start working on it. And I'm going to record everything and share it with you guys here. This isn't going to be terribly interesting, I don't think. So if you're watching this, go somewhere else. But I enjoy making videos. I enjoy kind of the introspective process of kind of discovering myself and discovering my fears and discovering my strengths through these sort of projects. And so I thought I would do this. I have other channels where I can make cooler videos and, you know, come across as somewhat more competent than I am right now. But I thought, you know what? Let's hold myself accountable to myself, to the world, and start working on this. Okay, so more about all that later. But as you can see, the first step here is to get this workshop up and running, right? I mean, check this out. This thing, I mean, nobody can work in this at all. This is just absolutely unacceptable. And so I think that's going to be my, well, no, I know that's going to be my first step, my first project. Now, by the way, I always clean the garage as the first step. It's my way of tricking myself into thinking I'm doing something when I'm really not. But nevertheless, it needs to be done So that's going to be the first step. So get your back here. So that'll be my first thing this weekend. It's the weekend right now. I'll go ahead and start that and kind of explain a little bit about why I chose to do this in the process. All right? Thanks a lot. We'll see you later. All right, everyone. Let me go ahead and close that down. So, yeah, I'm, you know, Faduma looks like a big garage, but it's not a big garage. It's just because it's a wide-angle lens that it looks big. It's really not. Wide-angle lenses can make anything look big. You take this space I'm in right now, it's actually very, very small, but wide-angle lenses make it look big. Yeah, I'm going to start a new channel where I'm going to start working on that car. So I did some test footage there and shared that with you guys. Yeah, going to be interesting. I hope, I suppose, we'll see, right? You know what? That's gone out again. That camera keeps going out. I don't know why it does that. Let me make sure the connection is good. Yeah, that connection. I am going to turn it off and turn it back on to make sure that it's set. So let's do this. All right. I know you can still hear me and there's no picture. We'll come back over here. And now I'm turning it. Good to go. All right. Okay. Hopefully that keeps it from wigging out and going back and forth. Hey, Tristan, great to see you with us again. Great to have you with us. Yeah, this is the new studio, man. This is it. This is everything that we were talking about, right? Including all the sound panels that we were doing. Gosh, it's going out again. Well, you know what? We're going to... yeah, I wonder why that camera keeps going out. Folks, let me try one more thing. I'm going to unplug this and plug it back in and see how that works for us. Yeah, hopefully it'll be all right. But here's the good news. Today we're talking about resumes. And in fact, if I sort of disappear, but you just hear my voice, that's okay. Because mostly we want to talk about resumes today. So yeah, I may very well end up being that we don't see a whole lot of me, but that's all right. That's all right. So let's come over here. What we're going to talk about today is really all the sort of little things that you need. Boy, that just going in and out. I apologize. That's going to be a little frustrating, but it is what it is for right now. I think I'm going to have to reboot my computer after this is what we'll do. We're going to talk about the purpose of a resume, what resumes are all about, how they're evaluated, and in knowing how they're evaluated, you know, let me just make sure, is that blinking, is my picture blinking on and off for you? Is my picture blinking on and off? Let me see if that's blinking on and off for you guys. What we might do is just turn that off. Yeah, that's just blinking on and off here. Let me know if that, if my photo is, if this picture right here, if it's going on and off. No. Huh. Maybe it's just my feed. Well, I'm going to do my best to ignore it. Thanks, Josh. Hey, Val. Thank you. All right. Not anymore. Well, it'll probably just start up again. Okay. Let's get back to the good stuff. So we're going to talk about how your resume is evaluated so that you know how to set it up. We're going to talk about aligning with the job description and, accomplishments and so forth. But then I also want to take some time to talk about how to calculate for implicit bias, okay? Now, let me remind, kind of define implicit bias for you. We all have biases. Remember, we all have our psychographics through which we view the world. And in some cases, we're highly aware of our biases. In other cases, we may not really be aware that we have a bias or a prejudice. And these are what we call implicit biases. And when our resume is being evaluated by somebody, well, that person's biases, implicit biases, will affect how they view our resume. And this can work to our advantage. It can work to our disadvantage most of the time. So we're going to talk about how to calculate for that. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started here. First of all, what I want to do is talk about, and I'm going to bring this down here, why companies hire in the first place. It's really important to understand why they're hiring, because when you know why they're hiring, you can kind of account for that in your resume. Let me show you what I mean. All right, wrong button. This is not the right day for me, is it? Holy cow. This isn't going to be my best show. Okay, first of all, an employer has a problem, okay? If they don't have a problem, they are not going to hire. Hiring is very difficult. It's very time-consuming. It's very expensive, and it's very stressful. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about. I've hired hundreds of people in my time in the corporate sector. It's difficult, it's expensive, it's time-consuming, and it's stressful. So if an employer does not have a problem, they are not going to hire. So first criteria, they have a problem. Second, they cannot solve this problem with their current resources. If they could solve the problem with their current resources, they wouldn't hire, okay? Third, the problem is costing them money. Even if they have a problem and they can't solve it with their current resources, if the problem isn't costing them money, they're not going to hire, all right? And so when it comes to you and your resume, what you really want to do is communicate to the employer that you have solved this problem before and that you can help the company stop hemorrhaging money and, in fact, make money, okay? They hire people to solve problems. So they really want to make sure that you have the skills necessary and the experience necessary to solve the problem. Now, let's now talk about evaluation, how companies evaluate your resume. They are only going to look at your resume for the first time for a few seconds, all right? Maybe 30 seconds or so. And that means that you have very, very little time to make a good impression, right? And this is where structure and format is really going to be your friend. Now, this is something we talked about in a previous lecture, the importance of structure and format. When it comes to resumes, structure and format is just about everything when it comes to that initial impression. So the example I'm going to show you is very, very clean structure and format. In fact, let's go ahead and pull that up. I'm going to come over here. I'll pull this on down. And I'm going to show you, and let's get out of the way. I will get out of the way here. All right. Here's a for example resume for myself, right? Very, very clean in terms of structure and format. You've got your name, you've got phone number, contact information, okay? Let's first talk about the contact information here. All you want to do is give a phone number and an email address, okay? Don't give your street address, all right? Now, there's a couple of reasons for this. One is they don't need it. They don't need your street address. They're not going to send you any material or anything like that. They're going to call you or send you an email, okay? So they don't need your street address. But here is an example of implicit bias. If they look at where you live, and let's say we have two resumes that are absolutely identical, okay? And one of them is, everything's identical except for one thing. One is from Salt Lake City up in the avenues, or maybe in Draper, right? And the other is from, say, Magna or West Valley, okay? This is where implicit bias may cause the person to look at, say, the Draper resume or the Salt Lake City up in the avenues resume and say, this looks pretty attractive. They're obviously successful and so on and so forth. I want to go ahead and call this person. Whereas if they are in Magna or West Valley, they might kind of go, oh, you know what? I don't know. I'm not real familiar with those areas. This is implicit bias, okay? There's absolutely nothing wrong with Magna, West Valley, and all those areas, okay? I mean, they're awesome. They're great. They're affordable. They're up and coming. And in fact, property prices are going up there. It's going to be fantastic. But there's a stereotype. This is the implicit bias. So this is the first area where I just recommend you don't give a street address. Okay, now when it comes to the format here, remember we're talking about format and how they are quickly evaluated. You want to make it really easy and simple for the reviewer evaluating the resume to find the information they want. You don't want them to work hard at all, okay? When it comes to internal communication, we want to make it as easy for them to get to yes as possible, right? So, very clean, very simple, very straightforward. In this example that we have here, you can clearly see where I worked, you know, what my job position was, as well as some details on accomplishments. We'll talk more about that later. I'll go to the second page here, all right? Intel Corporation, where I worked, the dates in which I worked. You know what? Oh, I can't do that. And then my job title, and then just some general details of what I did, and then my accomplishments. We'll talk more about accomplishments in a moment. So it is very, very simple for a reviewer to find the information they need here. Now, what about fancy formats? Okay, now, if you Google, say, resume formats and so forth, you're going to find lots and lots of really kind of cool, fancy, well-designed sort of resumes and so forth. Here are some things to bear in mind. Those resumes may very well be appropriate for you if you are going into, say, a design-focused field. If you are applying for jobs in a marketing firm or an advertising firm or a design firm, or even architecture and so forth, if you are applying for a job in some sort of company where, you know, design aesthetic is actually a core element of your job, those designs might be pretty good, okay? However, I tend to say be conservative. For any other sort of job, you just want to make it easy for them to find the information. That's really what you want to do. And so I personally, unless you're going into marketing or advertising or design, something like that, I personally would steer clear of the fancy modern designs and just go for clean, traditional, okay? Which means something like this, sans serif font, well laid out, things of that nature, okay? So that is kind of the first thing to consider when it comes to how your resume will be evaluated, all right? The next thing I want to talk about is making sure that the job description is included in the in your resume. Now, when we come back to this sample resume I have here, come back over here and so forth, it's in fact not a human being who will do your first evaluation, all right? It's a computer. Just about every company these days, they run the resumes through a computer, and the computer decides whether or not your resume should be seen by a person, okay? Now, why do companies do this? Well, because they get 300 resumes. They're not going to have somebody read all 300. They're going to have a computer, whittle it down to 60 or so, and then they'll be in good shape, all right? Which really means that you need to make sure that your job description is reflected in the resume, all right? And I apologize, I should have done this before, but we're going to do it right now. Oh, here we go. Oh, come along, where are you? Here we go. Okay, so I'm just going to go to Salt Lake Community College and jobs. And we're going to find a sample job description. Okay, let's go to Slick Jobs. And we'll go ahead and pull up administrative positions just for the fun of it. Okay, Director, Outreach, Business Training Alumni. Okay, let's take a look at this job description for a moment. We have a job summary, right? And then we have the essential responsibilities. Let's blow this bad boy up so that we can see this a little bit better. And I'll move it over here and I will reduce that. Telling you, today's a little weird, isn't it? In terms of the design. I apologize. Okay, so here's what you want to do in your job description to make sure, in your resume, to make sure that, first of all, the machines, and then we'll talk about the people in a moment, you'll want to look for keywords, right? Let's see. If we are looking at a job of outreach and business training, well, outreach, you definitely know that networking is going to be in here. So my guess, if I did some search in here, I have no doubt that I'd find something on networking. Let's do a find network. Yeah, check it out. Networks with local business community. I would totally include that phrase in my resume. Attends and develop networking events and clinics, community. So check this out. We've got network at least 2 times, maybe 3. And we have community a couple of times. We have business partners. I'd be willing to bet dollars to donuts that we'd see business partners a few times. Okay. Coordinate and so forth. You want to make sure that the tasks that you see reflected in here, assuming you have these responsibilities and that you've done this sort of work and you're applying to this job, You want to make sure that these things are reflected in your resume. So you're going to rewrite your resume to make sure that it mirrors this job description. Now, I said this was because of the computers, but it's for another reason as well. It's for the actual human beings who are going to read this, all right? Let me tell you exactly what you want the human being to think when they read your resume. You want them to think, wow, it's like this person wrote the job description. Now, here's the thing. They know intellectually that all you did was make sure that your resume reflected the job description, as I'm saying right now. But emotionally, they want to believe you're that good. Okay? And emotions almost always beat out reason. Yes, intellectually, reason, they know you just reflected this in your resume, but emotionally, they want to think you have the skills, you have the experience, you have the know-how, you know how to solve these problems. And so that, trust me, I have been in so many hiring committees where people just pick up the resume and go, wow, it's like they wrote the job description. They're on the top of the pile. I have heard that so many times. It's extraordinary. Okay? All right. So that is on the evaluation side. Now, let's talk for a moment about implicit bias. Okay? I told you that this was a concern for us. And there's a few areas in which you need to look at implicit bias. First of all, as I said up here, don't include your address. All right? Implicit bias, you don't want to give them a reason to say, oh, Kearns. They live in Kearns? Wow. You don't want that. Show you another place. Down here at the bottom, when it comes to your education. Okay? You notice here with my education, I am not including the graduation dates. They don't need the graduation dates. Okay? Now, why not? I don't want them to figure out how old I am. Now, in my case, I'm old, and I don't want them to figure out that I'm really old, because once you're over 40, you're in a protected class, whatever, right? But no, age, no. When you're hiring somebody, you don't want to hire somebody who you're like, what, they're 5 years away from retirement. I don't want to hire them, right? I don't want them to think that, so I don't include dates. Now, what if you're really young? Well, you probably still don't want to include dates, because you don't want to run into a situation in which they go, oh my gosh, this person's only 23. They're replacing somebody who was 47. Can a 23-year-old really do the job of somebody, of a 47-year-old? You don't want them to think that. Your age should not be relevant to whether or not they call you for an interview. Now, by the way, it's illegal for age to be relevant. But illegal doesn't change the fact that we have that implicit bias, okay? So don't include your address. Don't include your graduation dates. Now, what if you don't have a degree yet? Well, in this case, you want to go ahead and say, let's say you're at Salt Lake Community College. Salt Lake Community College, studying business, degree anticipated 2021. Now, good news, if you simply put degree anticipated 2021, it's as good as having the degree, okay? If they require a degree for the job, they will have two piles. Val, I'll get to that in just 1 second. They'll have two piles, those with the degree and those without the degree. If you put graduation anticipated 2022, you will go in the pile with the degree, okay? So Val, to that point, I wouldn't put a high school. The fact that you're in college and that you're working on a college degree, that's what you should put. Now, if you have never had any college at all and all you have is a high school degree, yes, you will want to put the high school degree, because that might be a minimum entrance requirement for the job. But if you're in college, it's assumed that you have a high school degree, okay, or the equivalent thereof. So I would just, in your case, Val, I would just put Salt Lake Community College, anticipated graduation date 2021 or 2022, whenever it is, and you're going to be set. But once you have the degree, take off that year. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. So, another piece of implicit bias. All right? So, that is about job description and how they're evaluated in implicit bias. Now, there's one more thing I would like to share with you, and this is the one that is most important, I believe. Okay, I'm going to pull up, basically, this is a resume template. Now, if you're in my class, I sent this resume template out like last week, so you have a copy of this resume template. But it basically has all the elements you need and in the right format and in the right font and so forth, and all you need to do is fill it out. So as we just talked about when it comes to education, all we need to do is put in there, let's come over here and make, oh, it's not going bigger. Doesn't use the same buttons. Degree, field, institution, anticipated graduation, put the year. Okay, good, Val, I'm glad you're filling yours out. Fantastic. Let's talk about accomplishment statements. Now, for those of you in my class, and if you're not in my class, you can go to Nutshell Brainery and go to the video series on changing careers and watch the video on rebranding your resume. And in that, we talk about accomplishment statements. Accomplishment statements are really important in communicating to the dude and dudette who's reading our resume that we have the skills necessary to solve their problems. Remember, they have a problem, they can't solve it with their current resources, and it's costing them money. The accomplishment statement says, hey, I've solved that problem before, and the company did great and we made money. So as it says here, it states what you did and the result of what you did, all in such a way as to allude to the nature of the business problem. So let me show you what I mean here by showing you one of my accomplishment statements. Okay, let's see. All right, so let's take a look at this one right here. I directed Intel's NetStructure brand presence at a couple of conventions, NetWorld, Interop, IPSCon, and Telecom Asia, successfully launching several new products and business ventures. That's what I did. So if a company wants somebody who knows how to launch new products at trade shows, they know that I can do that because I've done it before, right? Instituted an online materials tracking tool resulting in better inventory management and reduced costs to the program. So as we see, it says what I did, the results of what I did, and the implied business problem is that it was costing us money. Okay, I'll show you one more. Let's see, let's find a straightforward one. Here for internal business communications, guys, Business 2200. I developed and launched a national communications campaign announcing significant changes in company overtime pay structure for manufacturing employees. So if I'm applying to a job that is internal communications, what we're learning about in this class, and it's for HR, they'll look at something like that and go, oh my gosh, this guy has done the sort of things that we need done right now. So that is the whole purpose of an accomplishment statement. It really describes what you did, the result of what you did, and the business problem that you solved. Okay? So, using the template that we have there, this template right here, all you need to do is fill this out to reflect what you have in your own work history and to reflect the job description that you're shooting for, and you're going to be in really good shape. Okay? So I apologize for all the technical problems today. And we did, and because we had my technical problems and I was distracted by that, we didn't have proper all of this and so forth. So you know what I'm going to do is just do me a favor. Let's go ahead and do the email timestamp for 9 o'clock. All of you send me an email for 9 o'clock with the timestamp of 9 o'clock. And I'm going to give you a little extra something because since I was having technical issues, I couldn't really engage with you in the way that I was really hoping to. And I apologize for that. But you know what? Every once in a while, things like that happen. And we just sort of have to deal with it. So because this is a resume workshop and so forth, what I'm going to do is this. The lecture portion is over. You're all set. Send me the timestamp. Thank you very much for joining. All that good stuff. Now, what I'll do is if you have any specific questions about your resume and so forth, and you're willing to put up with this flashy screen for a little while, I need to reboot this thing once we're done, then go ahead and let me know if you have any questions, and I'd be more than happy to answer your questions. If you have questions that are best done privately, then you can email me, and I'd be happy to help them. One thing to all of my students, use me as a resource. Let me edit your resume. Let me give you feedback. Use me as a reference when you're applying to jobs. Even though this semester will be done in 6 weeks, access to me and using me as a reference is a lifelong membership. Okay? So if you're in my class, even if you're not, let me know. We'll connect. I'll help you on your resume because I really want to help people do well in their careers. Okay? So let's see if we have any questions. Val, it looks like you're working on your resume. That is fantastic. If you don't have any questions, we'll go ahead and drop off. But if you do, go ahead and throw them in there. While I'm waiting for questions, what's a good resume story I have? I'm going to try to think of a resume. I've got a resume story for you. Hey, one thing, 1 page, 2 max. 1 page, 2 max. One time, I was, gosh, was it with Intel? Yeah, I was helping hire a position at Intel, and we got a resume that was in a bound booklet. We're probably talking 26, 27 pages in a bound booklet. We threw it away. We didn't even read it. I have no idea who it's from. We don't even look at it. We just throw that away. That's the difference between a resume and a CV. CV tends to be longer. They're highly detailed, but they're only used in academia and research firms and so forth. They're not used in business. That's just strictly resume. Yeah, 1 page, 2 max, right? Okay. So, Matt, that is a super good idea, question. Thank you. I should have brought that up before. Okay. I strongly recommend you do not include a picture of yourself. Okay? Do not include a picture of yourself. You are inviting a whole wave of implicit bias to work against you. Okay? And it's even kind of seen as amateurish, amateur hour, to include a picture of yourself. Okay? So don't do it. However, I saw a resume one time that had the logos of each one of the companies where the person had worked. And so just, on this, here's all the description, but then for each one, there would be the logo of the company. And I actually thought that looked really sharp. I thought that looked really good. And so, frankly, I would be open to that, because I'm not being biased by what I see because of the picture and so forth. But on the other hand, I get to see where you've worked nice and quick. And if we think about LinkedIn, here, let me do something here real quick. I'm going to come back over here and we'll go to LinkedIn. Hey, connect with me in LinkedIn, folks. All right. Connect with me in LinkedIn. LinkedIn does that. Oh, for heaven's sake, just go to the site. Okay, let me pull this up. I'm going to come over here. Let's come down here. Okay. So if we go to my profile in LinkedIn, as you can see, it pulls up the logo of each one of the places where I've worked. Well, I think that's kind of cool. I think that looks good. So yeah, Matt, I'd be game for that. Tristan says, I've been told to apply an interview as if you already work there. Yes. In fact, Tristan, on Wednesday, I'm going to be doing this session about how to rock an interview. And part of rocking an interview is doing the research to such a degree that when you walk in, you're already walking in with a strong understanding of the business, a strong understanding of the challenges they're facing, and furthermore, even some solutions. You should start working for the company before you're even hired. So, Tristan, I would emphatically agree with that. It sets a really, really good impression for you, and it shows them that not only do you have answers, you're a go-getter and you're proactive and you're ready to get moving, right? So, very good question. Yeah, everyone connect with me in LinkedIn. Gosh, I can't tell you how important networking is. I cannot tell you how important, especially when my picture is gone. There it is. While it's there, I can't tell you how important networking is. Oh my gosh. Think about it. Even the job you have right now, 9 out of 10 of you got that job because you knew somebody. A friend, a family member, who knows what. Very few jobs today are just, hey, I saw it online and I applied. The vast majority of jobs, especially the career positions, are because you know somebody on the inside. Okay? Okay, I'm going to come up with one more story, and we'll see if there's another question. A resume story. Hey, I'll tell you a resume story. During I was working with eBay at the time, and there was a recession going on, and we were hiring a web developer. Okay. Web developer, information architect is higher than a standard web developer. Okay, here's a standard web developer. This is an information architect. We were hiring an information architect web developer, so somewhat higher, but much lower than, say, somebody who writes code and so on and so forth. Well, we got a resume from a gal with a PhD from Harvard in something like French or something. I don't know. I forget what the PhD was in, but a PhD from Harvard. The hiring manager really wanted to reach out and call the person, but he was torn. I was actually really curious, but we made the decision not to contact this person, because if you are a PhD from Harvard and you're looking for a web developer job during a recession, that tells me that the very moment a job more aligned with what you do comes open, you're gone. You're gone. So what should this person have done? You don't need to include that you have a PhD from Harvard. You don't have to include everything on your resume. Now, let me be clear. You can't make crap up, right? You really can't. You cannot. You will get in trouble. But that doesn't mean you need to include everything, okay? So this person did not necessarily need to include that they had a PhD from Harvard, all right? So, you see some really interesting stuff in resumes. You really do. Okay, I don't see any more questions. So, everyone, thank you very much for joining me. Once again, I apologize for the technical difficulties. I will fix these. And when we come back on Wednesday, we'll talk about how to kill the interview. All right? You guys have a fantastic rest of the day, and we'll see you later.